The Greenland shark is one of the most incredible animals on Earth, and for good reason. It can live for more than 400 years. Scientists consider it the longest living vertebrate ever discovered, outliving whales, tortoises, and almost every creature we know. What makes it so unique is how its whole body operates in slow motion. It grows about 1 centimeter a year, moves very slowly, and lives in icy Arctic waters where temperatures stay near freezing. Such conditions slow its metabolism down to levels barely imagined, which allows it to age at an incredibly slow pace. It wasn't until recently, though, that researchers realized its unbelievable lifespan was true. They did this through radiocarbon dating of proteins in the shark's eye lens, indicating that some individuals were centuries old. History and discovery. The story of the Greenland shark is one both of old science and new surprise. Scientists have known about the species for centuries, given that this shark was formally described as Somniosus microcephalus by Bloch and Schneider as far back as 1801. Yet only lately did researchers realize just how extraordinary its lifespan is. Early naturalists and Arctic fishers treated it as a slow, deep-water mystery, big, sluggish, and mostly hidden beneath frigid seas. The real bombshell came when researchers used a clever dating trick on the shark's eye. Eyes build layers as animals grow, and the very center of a shark's eye lens is made of proteins formed before birth and never replaced. In 2016, a Danish-led team measured radiocarbon in those eye lens nuclei and found dates that pushed individual ages into the centuries. From 28 female Greenland sharks, the study produced minimum ages that left scientists stunned. Many individuals were at least 2 to 3 centuries old, and statistical models put the oldest around 392 years, with uncertainty spanning lower and upper bounds. That single method, adapted from forensic science, changed everything about how we think of vertebrate aging. Why hadn't anyone figured this out sooner? Part of the answer is biological. Greenland sharks don't have hard structures that record growth the way fish otoliths or tree rings do, and traditional aging tools simply failed. Researchers had long suspected extreme longevity because these sharks grow extremely slowly, roughly 1 centimeter per year, and can reach lengths over 5 meters. Slow growth and life in near-freezing water hinted at a slow life history, but the radiocarbon work gave the hard numbers that turned a hunch into proof. Scientific discovery also sits beside older Arctic knowledge. The Inuit communities long knew the shark as a distinctive and sometimes dangerous presence. Its flesh is toxic unless the traditional dish hakal, and stories about the creature are woven into local myth. Those cultural threads show people living with the animal for generations before labs supplied radiocarbon clocks. Modern science didn't replace that knowledge. It simply added a new layer. The shark is not only culturally important, it's probably the longest-lived vertebrate we know. Finally, the 2016 work didn't close the book. It opened new questions. How does the shark's cold, slow metabolism protect cells for centuries? At what age do they reproduce? And what does extreme longevity mean for conservation, when a species that matures so late can be vulnerable to modern fishing and environmental change? Those are ongoing puzzles that link a centuries-old animal to 21st century science. Extreme longevity. The extreme longevity of the Greenland shark comes down to slow physics and clever detective work. For decades, scientists had suspected that these sharks lived a very long time because they grow almost in slow motion, about 1 centimeter per year, and can reach lengths of 4-5+ meters. That snail-paced growth hinted at a life stretched over centuries. The hard proof arrived when researchers used an unusual clock inside the shark's eye. The very center of a vertebrate's eye lens is made of proteins laid down before birth and never replaced. By measuring radiocarbon in that eye lens nucleus and comparing it to known atmospheric and marine radiocarbon histories, scientists can estimate when those proteins formed and therefore how old the animal is. In a landmark 2016 study, radiocarbon dating of eye lenses from 28 Greenland sharks produced minimum ages in the centuries, with modeled estimates putting the oldest individuals near 392 years with wide uncertainty and a group average around 272 years. That paper is what moved the Greenland shark from very old to probably the longest-lived vertebrate we know. It is biology that explains why their clocks run so slowly. Greenland sharks live in near-freezing Arctic and North Atlantic waters, often hundreds of meters down. In poikilotherms, which are animals whose body temperature follows that of the environment, cold temperatures reduce metabolic rates. A lowered metabolism is usually associated with reduced growth, delayed reproduction, and slower buildup of cellular damage, factors that together stretch lifespan. Marine Institute observations and summaries report top swimming speeds under a few kilometers per hour and predict sexual maturity only after about 100–150 years, making their life history among the slowest of any large vertebrate. There are also biochemical clues. Like other deep cold species, Greenland sharks have high levels of compounds such as trimethylamine N-oxide and urea in their tissues. These help stabilize proteins in cold, high-pressure environments and may protect cellular machinery from damage over long periods. Genetic and genomic work and ongoing molecular studies are searching for signatures repair systems, metabolic pathways, or other mechanisms that could explain how cells resist aging for centuries. Those molecular questions are active research frontiers now. Ultimately, extreme longevity alters our perspective on conservation. A species maturing after a century and may live for many hundreds of years cannot quickly recover from heavy fishing or environmental change. So, the same traits that enable Greenland sharks to slow time also make them fragile in a rapidly changing ocean. Reason scientists are racing to learn more about their biology before the environment around them shifts too much. Anatomy and biology. The Greenland shark is quite literally the slowest shark on the planet. And that slowness is one of its greatest survival tricks. Because it lives in freezing deep Arctic waters, it does not have to zip around chasing prey. In fact, it has an incredibly low swimming speed, 0.34 meters per second at its most speedy, and its tailbeat frequency is among the slowest recorded for any fish. That laziness saves energy and helps explain why it ages so slowly. One of the really remarkable things about this shark is just how little it grows. It only puts on about 1 centimeter of body length per year, which is painfully slow compared to many other shark species. Because of that, these sharks don't reach full size quickly, but rather in due time grow gradually in a world that demands patience. But what sets them apart is not just the rate of their movements and rate of growth. Actually, their flesh is toxic to many animals, including humans, when consumed fresh. What is responsible? A chemical known as trimethylamine N-oxide, TMAO, within their tissues builds up to help them survive in deep cold water. It serves to balance out salt in the body and maintain protein stability under pressure in the shark's body. But when mammals eat the flesh, our gut converts TMAO into trimethylamine, or TMA, which exerts toxic and neurological effects. In other words, it makes you feel very unwell. Their metabolism is what some people call zombie shark slow, because they hang out in nearly freezing water around -1 to +5 degrees C. All their biological processes run at a snail's pace. This slow metabolism means they don't burn energy quickly, which in turn slows aging. Scientists are even finding genetic traits in the Greenland shark to support amazing longevity. Some recent genome studies suggest they have adaptations for deep-sea life and very efficient cellular repair. Now, about how they see the world. Well, vision isn't their strong suit. Many adult Greenland sharks carry a parasite called Omatocoita elongata on their corneas. Quite literally, this crustacean attaches to the eye and inflicts damage that clouds the cornea. Consequently, many sharks can see very poorly, yet it does not keep them from existing. Thankfully, their vision is not completely lost. New research indicates that they do retain rod cell-rich retinas, which are quite good for seeing in low light, and their eye structure remains highly functional even in very elderly individuals. To compensate for poor eyesight, they depend on other senses. most especially smell and their lateral line, a sensory system that detects movement in water to help them get around and locate food items. Diet and behavior. When it comes to eating, this shark is a lazy predator. It doesn't actively chase after prey as a great white does. Instead, it often waits for food to come to it, or sniffs out easy meals from afar. Because it swims so slowly in frigid deep waters, it can't really chase down prey. Its secret? Being opportunistic. According to National Geographic, Greenland sharks are primarily scavengers, meaning they'll happily feed on carrion, dead animals drifting in the water, but they can also hunt when the chance arises. Scientists know this because of research done on what is inside their stomachs. In one major research project, biologists analyzed the contents of 88 sharks' stomachs and married that with stable isotope analysis to learn about their diet. What they found was really interesting. Smaller Greenland sharks under approximately 2 meters long mostly feed on squid, whereas the larger sharks above 2 meters switch to bigger prey, large fish like cod and skates, and even mammals such as seals. This dietary shift in a shark's lifetime is called an ontogenetic dietary shift. But the real eyebrow raiser? The weird things found in their stomachs. The sharks are not picky, for sure. Remains of moose and reindeer and polar bears have been found inside their tummies, even whole carcasses. That does not necessarily mean the shark caught a moose swimming across the Arctic. Often, the shark is likely scavenging, detecting the smell of rotting flesh from a long distance and slowly making its way toward an easy meal. Still, the Greenland shark is more than just a garbage collector. There's solid evidence that it can hunt live animals too. For instance, marine biologists have suggested that it may sneak up on sleeping seals. Sometimes, these seals rest in the water, leaving themselves dangerously vulnerable, and the slow shark could ambush them in silence. How does a shark with pretty poor eyesight do any of this? Well, vision probably isn't its strongest sense. Greenland sharks are often plagued by a parasite that latches onto their eyes, damaging their corneas, so they don't rely much on sight. Instead, they rely on a superpower sense of smell to zero in on dying or dead animals from far away. The low profile probably helps, along with the slow, stealthy movement in dark water. Such fish essentially glide in, using their low profile and the scent of decay or blood to find a meal. Because of all this, its scavenging habits, its patient hunting strategy, and its ability to eat anything from squid to seals to moose, scientists sometimes call the Greenland shark the ghost of the Arctic. It haunts the deep, cold waters, always ready to sniff out the next big meal, dead or alive. DNA, science, and research. Scientists are finally peeking under the hood of the Greenland shark to understand why it ages so slowly, and the answers are coming from DNA, chemistry, and clever forensic tricks. The big leap began with eye-lens radiocarbon work that showed that individual sharks live for centuries. The 2016 science study estimated many individuals at 200-400 plus years, overturning older guesses about shark lifespans. More recently, teams have decoded and analyzed the Greenland shark's genome to hunt for molecular clues. A 2024-2025 wave of genomics work, including full genome release and follow-up preprints, finds signatures in genes linked to DNA repair, protein maintenance, proteostasis, and metabolic regulation, the kinds of systems biologists expect to be important for long life in many animals. These genomic datasets give researchers concrete targets, that is, specific genes and pathways, to study in the lab rather than relying on guesswork. And then there's the chemistry. Greenland sharks contain high levels of trimethylamine N-oxide and related compounds that can help to stabilize proteins in cold, high-pressure conditions. TMAO protects folded proteins against denaturation damage, which may be one reason tissues continue functioning over centuries, although exactly how this relates to aging is still being teased out in enzymology and metabolomic studies. Functional studies add another layer. Recent laboratory and comparative work reports that some Greenland shark tissues maintain metabolic stability and low levels of age-related decline compared with short-lived species. In plain terms, certain muscles and cells don't show the same signs of breakdown you'd expect over decades, suggesting robust maintenance systems at work. That's why some scientists say the shark could reveal mechanisms relevant to human aging and cardiovascular health. Not because humans will become 400 years old tomorrow, but because the shark's biology highlights pathways worth studying. But studying an animal that lives 400 years brings big practical problems. Firstly, sampling is hard. These sharks live in cold, deep waters and are rare in research catches, so sample sizes remain small. Secondly, their slow growth and very late maturity, sexual maturity estimates around approximately 100-150 YRs, mean population and life history studies take unconventional methods and long time frames. Thirdly, aging estimates are indirect, via radiocarbon in islands' nuclei and statistical growth models, and carry uncertainty, requiring careful calibration to marine carbon histories. Each of these factors makes definitive statements cautious by necessity. Genomics gives us candidate genes, chemistry suggests protective molecules like TMAO, and tissue studies point to surprisingly stable physiology. Together, these lines of evidence have begun to paint a picture of how the Greenland shark can slow time. The work is active and exciting. Every new sequence and laboratory experiment narrows the mystery, offering realistic, testable ideas about longevity, both for Arctic giants and perhaps one day for human medicine. Dangers and threats. Ironically, one of the biggest risks to a shark capable of living 400 years is actually how slow it grows. Because Greenland sharks mature at such a late stage, any threat that kills just a few individuals can damage the whole population for centuries. One of the major hazards is fishing. Though people nowadays do not target Greenland sharks, they frequently get caught incidentally or by catch in commercial fishing gears such as trawls, longlines, and nets. Many of them do not survive when pulled up due to stress, the gear itself, or its handling. And since they reproduce so slowly, even moderate bycatch mortality can have a big impact. Then there is climate change, adding a long-term, less predictable threat. Greenland sharks like cold, deep Arctic waters. As sea ice recedes and water temperatures rise, their habitat could shrink or shift. Warming waters also affect the food web. Prey distribution could change, and some of their traditional food sources may become less reliable. Adding to that, the melting of ice increases the capability of fishing boats in reaching areas that were previously remote, thus putting added pressure on these slow-growing sharks. Another big concern is pollution. Due to the long living period, the Greenland shark has more time to build up toxins in their body. Researchers are particularly concerned about chemical pollutants from human activity, such as heavy metals and industrial waste, which could build up in their tissues and affect the health and reproductive capability of these animals. At the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences, scientists are tracking sharks and measuring levels of certain pollutants in their bodies to understand just how serious this is. Beyond that, habitat degradation is a threat. In a changing Arctic, not just from warming, but from increased human activity shipping and resource exploration, for instance, the places these sharks rely on could be disrupted. All of this, bycatch, climate change, and pollution, is particularly dangerous because their life strategy is so slow. They don't bounce back quickly from losses. Their low reproductive rate, long life, and deep-sea lifestyle translate into conservation needing to be thoughtful, long-term, and coordinated across borders. Otherwise, we risk putting a creature that has survived for centuries in real jeopardy. Impact on the ecosystem. The Greenland shark silently plays a surprisingly powerful role in the Arctic marine community, feeding on everything from smaller fish to seals and even large carrion. Because it feeds on such a wide variety of prey, it helps control animal populations high in the food web. Stable isotope studies show Greenland sharks occupy a very high trophic level, meaning they sit near the top of the food chain. By preying upon and scavenging from so many species, they keep a system with tight linkages among food availability and species interactions in balance. But their importance extends beyond just eating. As scavengers, Greenland sharks are like a deep-sea cleanup crew when large animals die and sink. Whales, seals, or even land mammals fall into the sea. Sharks eat that carrion, recycling nutrients that would otherwise decompose slowly or be locked in the depths. Scavengers such as them are critical in moving energy and nutrients back up the food web rather than letting it all decay in place. Were Greenland sharks to disappear, the effects would reverberate throughout the Arctic ecosystem. As they are at the very top of the Arctic ecosystem food chain, preying on organisms that have little overlap with other predators, their absence could leave a gap that no other species easily fills. Without them, some prey species might boom, and the scavenging niche they occupy could be left empty, potentially disrupting how nutrients circulate in these cold, deep waters. Moreover, their long life and slow growth give them a stabilizing presence. Because Greenland sharks mature slowly and live for centuries, they don't respond quickly to changes, but once they're gone, recovery could be slow too. Their loss would not simply be a matter of predator numbers, but could fundamentally change the structure and function of the Arctic marine food web. Scientists also emphasize that Greenland sharks are sentinels of environmental health due to their very long-living nature, which may lead to pollutant accumulation over many decades. Trace elements and persistent pollutants were revealed in tissues of these animals, which reflects the state of their health in view of long-term Arctic environment changes. Their role as both predator and scavenger makes them especially important for tracking how human activity and climate change are affecting deep-sea ecosystems. They are so much more than slow, weird giants. Greenland sharks quietly shape the Arctic marine world by balancing species, recycling dead matter, and serving as long-term indicators of environmental health. Losing them wouldn't just be a loss of one curious species. It would be like removing a cornerstone from an ancient ecosystem. Myths, stories, and culture. The Greenland shark is woven deep into Inuit lore and Arctic myth. More than just a creature of the north, it holds a cosmic, spiritual meaning for many. In old Inuit legends, the first Greenland shark is called Skalugswak, born from a seemingly ordinary piece of cloth. According to one story, an old woman washed her hair in urine, dried it with a rag, and that rag blew into the sea, where it turned into the very first shark. Because its flesh smells faintly of urine, a result of its high urea content, many Inuit believed the shark lived right in the urine pot of Sedna, the great sea mother in their mythology. Sedna is a powerful figure. When her father threw her into the sea, he chopped off her fingers as she clung to his kayak, and each finger became a sea creature. In some traditions, the shark becomes a spiritual ally for shamans, a helping spirit that guides and protects. This air of mystery and fear was also taken up by the European sailors and explorers. Although there were no confirmed records of any attacks, Inuit tales include stories of Greenland sharks destroying kayaks, or even capsizing them when sent specifically by Sedna herself. Their imposing size, ghostly slow movement, and eerie presence in icy deep waters created a reputation that rivaled nearly mythological sea monsters. In time, the Greenland shark developed in mythology into something like the shark that lives longer than empires. As the empires of the Inuit lands, of European explorers, and of colonial powers rose and fell, this silent deep-sea giant endured. It became a symbol of endurance and timelessness, as if the sea itself whispered tales of a creature older than human kingdoms. Today, that mythic weight adds another layer to what scientists already know, that this shark might actually live for centuries. Its slow motion in the water, the pungent smell, and its storied place in Inuit cosmology make it feel less like an animal and more like a living connection to ancient time. The Greenland shark is more than just a deep-sea curiosity. It is a living link to a world most of us will never see. Its slow life, icy home, and remarkable longevity challenge what we thought was possible for vertebrates. But beyond the fascinating science, this shark tells a bigger story about resilience and adaptation. In an ocean that is constantly changing, both naturally and due to human influence, the Greenland shark has survived for centuries, quietly adapting to pressures that would overwhelm most creatures. Its existence reminds us how little we still understand about life in extreme environments. The shark's life is a lesson in patience and endurance. Everything from its metabolism to its reproductive cycle is tuned to a rhythm far slower than our human pace. It also underscores the delicate balance of the Arctic ecosystem. A single species, no matter how ancient or robust, is vulnerable to changes we are creating, and the ripple effects could be profound. Finally, the Greenland shark represents more than science. It is a symbol of the mysteries still hidden in the oceans. Studying it may help us learn about aging, survival, and environmental stewardship in ways we cannot yet fully predict. Watching this creature glide through icy waters for centuries is a humbling reminder of nature's patience, persistence, and power, and of our responsibility to protect the fragile world that allows such remarkable life to endure. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed getting into the incredible world of the Greenland shark and discovering why it can live for centuries, make sure to hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss more fascinating stories from the natural world. Drop a comment below and tell us what surprised you the most about this ancient Arctic giant. And share this video with friends who love amazing animal facts. Until next time, keep exploring, stay curious, and remember, the ocean is full of secrets just waiting to be uncovered.